I could do it. I could not do the rest of this and just spend all the chapters of this story just sitting back and talking about the Universal Century, reviewing it, talking about why it's a classic, why it responds and resonates so well, and why we all come back to it, why Bandai comes back to it. But no, I'm not going to do that. No. Because this channel is dedicated to live reads, and I'm not about to become another internet reviewer. So, here we go! News of their arrival spread quickly, although it took third place in the local unprinted headlines. Behind Dr. Gentle returns, mostly unhurt, and Princess bows down to local, every point deeply honored. Twilight had unknowingly made a huge number of, if not new friends, to deeply respectful acquaintances with their introspective response. But they were still one of the local stories, and a traveling one, was what Rainbow Dash and Spike were spending quite a bit of their time maintaining the integrity of the newly established royal bubble. More than a few locals wanted to get a look at the princess, or get a word in. Several words. Complete speeches, which were all the more amazing than being totally spontaneous. And you know what? Now that I think about it, weirdly enough, the show is more accurate. I mean it. The show is more accurate to what would actually happen to Twilight in her early days of being a princess than this fic. This fic's trying to be realistic by saying, oh, if Twilight goes into town, she would be mobbed, and people would go down and talk to her, and all this. Okay. I want, as proof of this, right now, without looking some of these people up, and not using Google or Wikipedia, and I will know. I want you to describe for me Julia Childs, George Foreman, Marlon Brando in his early days, what Leslie Nielsen looked like before Naked Gun, and what does David Bowie look like without his makeup? Go ahead. Explain to me who they look like. What's more, some people, even if you became famous, I doubt you would get mobbed. Hell, if Princess Diana walked down the street today in my hometown, I don't think everybody would notice. I think maybe the people who pay attention to the royalty would. But to me, my brother, and some of my friends, we probably think he was a Diana cosplayer. I'm sorry to tell you guys this, but it's true. There is a thing, cognitive dissonance. And it very much seems like MLP runs on a what have you done for me lately type of thing. Like, oh sure, Twilight's a princess, so what? What has she done lately? Oh, she stopped Discord? Well, boo fucking who? That happened a few weeks ago! I mean, I would care, but what about the lay pony? Sorry, it happens. It really does. That's the problem with complaining about how ungrateful Marvel people are. Sometimes we can be just as bad. All Twilight wanted to do was get a bath. Verity might have been the one with the most sheer desire. And Twilight had been thrown into trees twice, lighted a dirt same. Plus, there had been a ravine and scrapes against bark, and the sear aftertaste of that horrible grass was still in her mouth. She tried to make it clear she wouldn't mind talking to every pony later, only to create that illusion. But she was feeling really dirty and really needed a good meal. So did her friends, and they would just let this kind stallion get them to a bath, maybe later. Quiet Presence was the one who finally put an end to it. And once the princess settles in and gets a day or two to recover from her time in the wilderness, there will be a party. Pinky immediately perked up. But until then, can we put a good face on our town by being the first ponies not to bombard her every 3 seconds? After all, I'm sure that's what they've been doing in Canterlot. And you know what? That's another thing I'm thinking about. It's just way more fun if we treated Twilight like a normal civilian. Some of you people who write these stories, you know what fun is, right? Just making sure your funny bone wasn't removed. And somehow, that dropped things down to the level the others could deal with. All except for Applejack, I couldn't shake the feeling that every pony was looking at her. Well, Applejack is hot. Applebot, maybe. Guess so many there were. I don't mean to pry, she cautiously began, but what happened to your town? There's so little of anything. Quiet quickly turned to face her, sighed a little. We're a unicorn town, I'm sorry to say, he told Applejack. When I say unicorn town, I mean 90% of the population. The rest is Pegasi. There are Earth pony settlements in the desert right now, with hardly a horn or pair of wings to be found, yes, because they've established the cornucopia effect. In our case, we're the reverse. So the local vegetation takes over, and for us, that means the oppressively foul grass. A few ponies for berries for the souls weeks of the season, a small natural apple orchard some distance from town, which every pony raised for sport and pretends they don't. And it's in the wild zone. Miss Appleblot, healthy and thriving, but unattended. And as far as native food goes, this is it. On their side, you would be amazed by what the local stores could get away with. No, perhaps you wouldn't. But without a permanent presence for your people, we are stuck bringing in virtually everything. At least until ponies learn to eat fish. That makes no sense. None at all. Vic, try to world build for once. Okay, why aren't Pegasi flying? You keep going on and on about wild zones this, wild zones that. Well, what's stopping a Pegasi from flying over to Carolot? Or Ponyville? Or to Appaloosa? Reaper, get out of here! Seriously, all I have to do is mention that town and that guy shows up. What's stopping you from flying anywhere? Unicorns. What's stopping you from teleporting? There's really no reason not to do this. Also, what's stopping you from bringing in an earth pony or two for farming? I. Why? Wait, no earth ponies. None at all. Applebot's tail switched for a few seconds before it got under control. Well, none who live here. A few members of the fire department are earth ponies, but it's a joint effort with another town and the local Pegasi neighborhood. They bring them in whenever they're needed. Of course, we have them coming and going all the time, bringing food in and getting what I believe are remarkably good prices for it, with the merchants still mark up more. But this was originally a unicorn settlement, and through time and tide it remained so. You're from Ponyville, yes? When did your phone fully integrate? I mean, beyond a token family of four. Applebot briefly paused in her step and gave us a visible thought. About 40 years ago. Okay, I can forgive the addition of dark elements that don't belong. I can forgive, trying to add additional dark bits. I can even forgive the ignorance of things that happened after season 4. That's fine. That's fine. That's good for you. But ignoring canon is something I cannot stand! And I'm willing to bet the unicorns were last in, correct? No, you are wrong. Unicorns came in second. Then we proceeded to get Pegasi. Stop filling my head with lies. Believe me, I welcome some earth ponies around here. I'd love to have a garden which screws something other than fists. It's called coin pony, Miss Applebot. I'll show it to you later. But we're isolated here. Unicorns carved this hollow out of the forest because I came to establish courier routes. Your people went to where there weren't so much clearing of the land needed. It's only in the last few centuries that you could take 10 steps in this town without hitting a leftover stump. You guys are lazy. Well, so much work to get started. We need a huge influx. This place is expensive, which makes it hard for large groups to get established. And then there's the clearing I mentioned. There was a major attempt 2 generations ago, but it meant the same fate as the others. Faded out and took the effect with it. Sadly. Who said the sadly? No, I mean, there's no quotations in this scene. My grandmother still talks about the flowers. Looking directly at Applebot, Earth ponies establish a town, and in time the unicorns come. Unicorns have a place, and in time the Earth ponies come. Except here. He switched to Fluttershy, and Pegasi establishes a place. But every pony else takes one step into their main stream, drops 500 feet straight down. Sometimes living together takes quite a bit of work. I would almost believe you if this wasn't, Equestria! The yellow Pegasus seemed surprised to be addressed, and everybody needed a few seconds to get an answer going. I live on the ground level. That's easier for every pony. Easier for me and my friends. He smiled. It's a rare feeling, wanting to make things easier. Rarity went along with that. Not as common as it could be, certainly. Celestia's tail, I have never tossed that much for one of my creations in my life. How are they getting away with that? Patsies. She pried her flat hose away from the shop window and dropped it back to a standing position. Tried to pretend there weren't any spectators staring at her flank. I think I'll need to have a talk with the proprietor. I already know the subject. Unseen by the rest of the group, Applebot and Emo Peaky were staring at each other. There was a contest in progress to see which was more worried. Applebot was running away with the title by 8 lengths. Oh, don't you mean 8 Celeste? Smell's dying out to death. My wife has 2 dresses in prosperity. Both purses here. Are you suggesting ours to order direct? No, I'm saying it does come up with the pony fit. It's an easy walk. But the wild sounds, there's no such thing. This walk to me. This really makes no sense. Wait, does this mean that Sapphire Shores lives here? That's a pony here? This really does not make any sense. What? And thank you for honoring me with your case, she thought. You're married, but you're so young. Her eyes were already beginning to widen with anticipation. There was little rarity enjoyed so much as the story of true love, especially if it had been forbidden at some point. A little bit of star-crossed did anything but hurt. You're all age at best. How did you come to be wed already? Was there a tale involved? Not much of one, Quiet replied. You guys are only 20. It is possible to get married at that age. But yes, married. Not quite a year yet. We do things a little differently out here, Miss Rarity. My status isn't unusual, but back to Applebot. Once the doctor's searchers clear out and delivery ponies head home, well, there's a good chance you and Miss Pie will be the only Earth ponies in town for overnight. If you had a mind to, you might be able to rate yourselves out for truly astronomical amounts of bits to those who don't understand how the effect truly works, and haven't been taken by traveling con artists before. The ones who promise a full guard in a week of your bits back. Walk around the property twice and move on to the next home before fancy 3 days later. Sorry, smile. I'd be the first giving you money, but unfortunately I read. Applebot and Emo Pinky managed smiles of their own, but that was all for record rates. And oh, another long explanation in the paragraph. Thick. I know people like CinemaSins and several reviewers have made fun of exposition. I know they've made fun of dialogue exposition, but that was a joke. There's good exposition and there's bad exposition. But here's the real secret. Sometimes you can't tell what it is, and neither can the critics. What's good exposition for one ends up being bad exposition for the other. Just have Twilight explain it to Spike! Oh god, this is what's a paladin all over again. Actually, let's see if I can do that. What's the cornucopia effect? I'm not entirely sure. Yep, works just as fine. You see, all you have to do, you don't have to do a whole paragraph explaining what this is to us. Just post it either as a little bitty asterisk down at the bottom during the author's notes, or have Spike ask, if he existed in this fic, "Hey, Twilight, what's the cornucopia effect?" Glad you asked, Spike. Wink. There, I saved you a paragraph. Or you could have some Philly ask that, or you could have somebody else ask that, or even Rainbow Dash ask it. Yeah, I know I'm picking on Dash, but there. Let's see what's the most obvious choice. There, problem solved. And no, I'm not going to read the paragraph. I'm going to read a summary of the paragraph, and then I'm going to tell you guys quickly what the cornucopia effect is. And you're going to see that you don't really need a paragraph. It's Earth Pony magic. The cornucopia effect is Earth Pony magic, and it's multiplied by more Earth Ponies. Next! The Unicorn Mailman's light shrugged as he walked. The movement seemed to pain him somewhat. He took a deep breath, continuing. Frankly, that would have been the only silver lining to having Dr. Gentle go missing. Not time for more of his to arrive from distant corners of Equestria. I could have had an excellent population of sorts going. But I'll make that sacrifice to have him back. You're one of his, aren't you? Twilight asked. Quiet nodded. One of the earliest. About 6 moons after Fluttershy. Do you know what happened to him? Softly. Who? Who is Softly? And if anybody else survived the fire? He blinked. Anybody else? Arthur lives alone, Twilight. Permission to go with informal addresser had been removed from possessive pronouns! Okay, you asked for it. Here we go again. There would have been no pony else to save. Oh! Genuine surprise. It's just that the home was so large. I thought there had to be lots of ponies living there. They served it. That got a smile. A sad one. Dr. Gentle Wills Hears. That gives him what might be the largest family in Equestria, but in the sense of blood alone, has no family of his own, and service simply never been a part of his lifestyle. Frequent visitors, and some stayed for a time, but on the whole, he lives alone. I know he has no guests of that night. So, do you know what happened? Woo! Another nod. To him. But it's a story to tell. Frankly, not a particularly exciting one. Tonight after dinner, perhaps. Now, combinations.
I'm afraid the castle's a bit of overstatement, at least for some pony who lives with a princess.
I didn't. Twilight quickly said. Not the way most ponies think. I took lessons from her and spent some weekends at the palace, but most of my school time was at the dorms.
Oh, well, misconception corrected. It's comforting to fix that whole corner of your story, actually. But I still have some space. With Dr. Gentle staying on me, it's enough formal guest rooms for at least 4 more. Or 5. Sorry, Noriko. But I have a guest cottage near the edge of my property. Again, not very large. 2 or 3 more could stay there. But the only thing I can offer without asking some of you to sleep piling of blankets on the floor. I know the hotel's been packing any more into the room since this began. I'm splitting up.
He turned around, checked the group as they exited the shopping district, started through a residential neighborhood that was far too much in love with trying out building styles.
I'm okay with blanket and basket,
Noriko said,
I'm not sure what to do with a bed.
although her expression suggested she wouldn't mind finding out. Possibly that Twilight's mattress was as safe during her travels as she might have thought.
Um, I don't like sleeping on floors. Dig it.
Pinky shrugged.
It's a sleepover, Dash. You don't sleep on branches, clouds, roofs, hay wagons, moving carts, apple pies, crusaders, catapult, some of market tents, fly sports. But this is a floor.
Like, came from suspicious Applebot. Let's get back to the catapult. Catapult. Maybe that's a secret begin flying a little higher, or outlast the rains.
It's not this or anything. They really only got the scoop done. It's pretty good for curling up in.
What the hell are they making a catapult for? Union Mark Crusaders, Siege Engine, Warfare Experts, yay. Celestia's main dash. Who gave them that stupid idea? Because I know I ain't thinking of the one on their own. They would have had to get it from somebody else, and honestly, you're trying to get ahead there. I'll beg you to tear up their library privileges. What? That that's just cruel. That's just cruel, Applebot. Shame on you for denying children the chance to read. Fuck you. They come up with disasters they can think of instead of the ones somebody else already writes stuff with. Bad enough you let them get away with that love poison book, but now you're letting them go for wheat bones. Glenn was doing a incredible flashlight, but he said it was for a history point. Look, they lied, or it was Scootaloo who got it, wasn't it? Well, the next time I see that Billy, I'm going to commit Scooter abuse. Scooter abuse. Scooter abuse. Bam! Thank you. For some odd reason, Scooter abuse is a bad word in my programming. My Princess was laughing hard, perhaps heaving, gasping for breath to the point where he seemed to be in real trouble. And he was. A tense coffee fit took over. Captain his vice will not let go. First, I immediately slipped in. Dr. Ho stared and dared along the stallions didn't test. Coffee eased. Quiet stared hard as the surprise had passed so quickly. It's all the Pegasus. Thank you. Calmly. It's usually much worse than that. It would have been without you.
Alright, it wasn't anything really. Does it happen a lot?
Enough, and no. Before you ask, there's nothing you can do, but thank you again. Because I know you're about to. And please, don't point and apologize. Not for making me laugh, not ever. Philly's looking for cutie marks, isn't it? I'm guessing at least one of them has a sister. Cheers, said Applebot. Maybe chaos. For some reason, capitals. At least you have chaos. It's a weary happiness that comes from when they find what they're looking for. They'll live through it. They'll always sing to you, since to every pony else who suffers. Until time passes to make it a story, and stories will come. I love telling every one of them, especially to her fillies and colts. Let's finally got a real smile from Applebot. Voice of experience, Mr. Results. A small head shake. Word of hope. We're not that far out. You might want to see who's sleeping before we get there. I promise the cottage is comfortable and warm. I just want Dr. Gentle in the main residence so I can keep an eye on him. No matter what he says, I don't like to look at that night. He continued to lead the way while the element bearer started out. The process didn't take long, as Applebot frantically demanded a cottage. Why, in a castle, Caroline, okay, that's the princess, but verbally drag along protesting. Just start kicking and screaming about doing either. Email picking with her. And you call with you, Castle Kitchens. You better off where I can keep an eye on you instead of letting you have the run of the pantries and sampling every last dish by eating every last dish.
I don't like splitting up. Someplace is willing to take the floor.
It's just a cottage. You can come out anytime.
Okay, I'm bisexual in this fic.
Like you, Rainbow Dash. Or you can sleep on the floor in there.
Castle's fine.
I want to try the branches at a college if we got any. Or you don't have any pillows hidden out this far. Christians, police barely will protest 2 moans ring across the land.
What pillows?
Do you want him through the room what was Vincent's home? Who? If you like moving from a mirage. If he let himself see past and pleasant. That part was easy. Here, he's moving past his waiting room, where years of. He went through a burnt down part of his home! The end of chapter!